As Kenya grapples with the aftermath of several terrorist attacks, government officials and security experts are unanimous that Kenya must review counter-terrorism measures to defeat this transnational security challenge. Kenya has been a soft target for terrorist activities since 1998, and the menace has evolved as radical groups from the Horn of Africa infiltrate the country to kill and maim innocent civilians. Only yesterday, Kenyan police released names of 5 individuals wanted for planning a major attack in the country. So, question is, what are the counter-terrorism measures and how effective are they? Joining us now from our city center studio is security experts in studio just to help us understand what this is all about. Delano Kiilu Longwe, security expert. Thank you so much, Mr. Longwe, for joining us on News Center. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Linda. I can hear you.
All right, Mr. Longwe, here's the thing. The Kenya police released names and pictures of 5 Kenyans wanted for links with the terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia, and they're asking Kenyans to sort of try and help more so family members. What mechanisms essentially should the police put in place, and indeed the country put in place, to have people willing to give this information to security officials in the country? What measures should be in place?
First of all, Linda, I think it's very important for everybody to understand that it is not business as usual. It's not business as usual in terrorism for the police. It is not business as usual for families and for Kenyans at large. That terrorism is in actual fact unconventional warfare, which, as you've said, tries to kill and maim innocent individuals in a fight that is an idealistic fight. And so what needs to happen right now is we need to step up our preparation. We need to begin to bring up awareness. And the awareness is not only internally within the security organizations, but as you've correctly said, is making people aware. What are the new faces of terrorism in Kenya? It's an ever-changing face, and it's always something that is intended to be executed with surprise. So how can we counter this? Is by understanding what are the various faces of terror, what are the new faces of terror that are beginning to emerge within the country, what kind of methods are these terrorists going to try to use, and are we communicating effectively within our families, within our communities to begin to address this issue. As a result of this, security experts such as myself are coming together over the next 2 days in an anti-terrorism summit to really discuss and to begin to make aware to the public the new methods that are being employed by such nefarious individuals, as well as new methods of actually diffusing some of these situations way before they become a threat to life or limb. So in terms of where Kenya police is, we feel very strongly that we could be at a better place. We feel that we can actually work together with the general public to provide better channels of information, better channels of communication.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Steps need to be taken now to address the
Here's the thing, Mr. Longwe, if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
There is one specific group that plays a critical role in all this. The police can do their work, you can do your work, the public can do their work, but then there's the issue of family, because looking at, again, the names that are released, they sort of seem to think that some of these people will go back, will seek assistance from their family members. So then how do you address that with family members, with the sons and daughters coming in from Somalia, of course with the main aim of attacking Kenyans? How do you deal with family members? Is that an area you want to explore?
Certainly, Linda, and what we find very much and very common now is that we have to face the realities. In dealing with terrorism, we, as you have correctly said, have to face the realities. The reality is that our family structure in this country has broken down. It is not what it used to be 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And families do not communicate. At best, it's a text message or a social media message. Our communication structures, even internally within families, we find families are not communicating internally. So many people don't know where their children have gone. Many young ladies, young men go off, they leave the home in the morning, they come back late at night. Nobody's aware of where they are. They could say that they are at a particular place. We don't know for sure. So what we're encouraging is, again, that we begin to rebuild the social structures within our families. It's not enough to just say Nyumba Kumi. Nyumba Kumi addresses an external communication aspect of security, which says, do you know your neighbor? I perhaps know my neighbor, and my neighbor says they do this during the day, but the person who is inside that house with the neighbor needs to be able to understand what is the person I am living with really up to. And we find that at a family structure level, that has broken down, which brings us, of course, to the other aspect, which is what is the role of women in countering terror. A woman in the African context, and especially in our country, is really the foundation of a home. What we find now, and what is actually beginning to become a place where we can see terrorism being bred, is that the women have abdicated from this role and are allowing for things to happen. It's not a home anymore, it's a house.
Oh, so now the bigger responsibility is now being put on women to fight terrorism?
Not fully. I want to just say here that it's a responsibility for everybody. We need everybody to play their specific role. We need everybody to put their best foot forward. We need everybody to be very proactive. So in saying everybody, we're not leaving anybody behind. We're insisting that everybody needs to get to a certain level of awareness, needs to be able to say if they see something strange. When you go to many modern countries nowadays, from the time that you arrive at the airport, in many of the developed countries, they immediately begin to educate you. They say, if you see anything strange, please report immediately and report to such and such a person. We are doing this, but we haven't emphasized this enough. And sad to say, that then leaves us open to risk of threat.
Okay, here's the other concern as well. A few years back, everyone knew that Al-Shabaab recruits young adults, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. But now we are seeing a scenario where they're recruiting school children. In fact, KTN ran a story a few days ago of a a boy who was 14 years old, and he got recruited into Al-Shabaab, and by extension, he started recruiting his own schoolmates. Does that worry you? Does that change how we now fight terrorism in the region?
It does actually alter that quite significantly, and I'll actually even tell you why. Because in many questions in terror, we have to answer the why question. The why question, why are they going at 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 13-year-olds? The why question is answered very simply. In our country, we declare somebody identified as a citizen of Kenya at the age of 18. That's when we begin to issue IDs. So it's very difficult to identify somebody below that age. And the terrorists know this. That's why they're targeting our youth that are below the age, where it's easy for us to track them through their bank accounts, through driving licenses, through identification. We then need to transform our way of identifying our citizens so that our citizens are identified from birth and no longer at the age of 18, when it's very easy to track people around. We can't for a fact say that we're comfortable tracking all our youth, and youth today comprise of over 60% of our nation's population.
Okay, very eloquent explanation there why the Al-Shabaab are now targeting children, 14, 12, 13-year-olds. Finally, before I let you go, you have a summit tomorrow. What is this summit all about?
The summit is an anti-terrorism summit. We're bringing together, Linda, experts from around the world on cyber terror, on physical terror. We'll actually be able to demonstrate and display some of the latest devices that we utilize in fighting terror. It's free summit. It's a very free summit. We're welcoming people to participate. I think we have confirmation already from over 68 universities and 6 diplomatic missions, as well as Kenyans from all walks of life and government officials. So we expect over the next 2 days to actually help Kenyans to grow in awareness of how to fight terror. Al-Shabaab, what are their methods they're using today, different origins of terror. Where does terror come from? How do we address this? How do we begin to invest in the right direction? How do we address the issues of funding of terror? You know, there's projects and implementations that have not taken place in this country, where we're supposed to be able to understand everywhere where terror is being funded from and cut off such routes for financing of terror. So we do welcome Kenyans from all walks of life to come join us at the National Museum of Kenya for Thursday and Friday. On Friday afternoon, we'll be awarding Kenyans who have shown outstanding bravery and courage in fighting radicalization, fighting terror, going up against the Al-Shabaab. going up directly in the line of fire, courage in the line of duty, and it's going to be a very exciting time, I think, for this nation. We need to have very strong mental resolve. We need to become a very hard target, and Kenya should not be a ground for any terrorist to feel comfortable living or dwelling in.
Delano Kiilu Longwe, security expert from our I&M studio, thank you so much, sir, for your insight and helping us to understand why now the Al-Shabaab group in Somalia is now targeting young children, saying these are people who cannot be identified. It's easy to radicalize them, and in any case, you can't track them down.